Hey everybody, it's Mike Young from aPlantBasedDiet.org, and I'm here with Maxime Sigouin. Is that right? Did I say it right?
Yeah, that was perfect.
All right, of Vegan Fit Coaching. And I think we have a lot in alignment here with our organization. And I just want to get right into it. I think, Maxim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the biggest issue that folks face these days is not necessarily knowledge, although that's definitely an issue for some. But I think it's more like compliance. That's the word I would use. And I think that's where your business fits in. Am I right?
Yes, yeah, definitely navigating the sea of information, which can be overwhelming, but definitely the compliance point is you can have all the knowledge in the world. If you do nothing with it, you still stay in the same spot.
Exactly. Okay. And also, what kind of excited me about your organization and your business is it seems like you're working with physicians and you're kind of providing a resource where, the physician, obviously someone wants to see a doctor, but then what happens in between doctor's visits, right? I mean, that's where all the progress is either made or lost. So how do you all fit into that?
Yeah, so we structured our program so that people get a full health team when they come in. So because you mentioned people will go see their physician and the physician's gonna be like, "Hey, I need you to eat, plant-based or eat healthier and I need you to exercise." But there's absolutely no follow-up or structure for the patient to be able to do anything with that information. They could simply not do anything until their next meeting. And or some people will take action and they'll hire a dietitian in one spot and then they'll try and get a personal trainer in another spot, but they'll never get all three of them to communicate in one hub. And so what I did, I was like, I brought everything in-house. So we have a doctor in-house, we have a nutritionist in-house, we have coaches in-house,
Oh,
so that every professional can work on the client to ensure that they get great results the whole way through. And ultimately, because of doing things whole food plant-based, because of my unique story of how everything started, we've been blessed to work with a lot of physicians in helping them in their own body recomposition transformation. So I think we're over 50 physicians that we've transformed so far,
wow.
and that's been a blessing because now they have a tangible plan of what that looks like when they tell their patients like, "Hey, I need you to exercise." Like, here's what I did to transform myself, which they didn't have that information before.
That's right. Okay, let's start with your story because I did see a few things online about a former partner, right? Is this kind of how things got going?
This is how Fit Vegan Coaching and this whole movement, this whole mission was started. Yeah. My late partner, I was 22 years old when I met her. And within 3 months of us dating, she got diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm,
And she was very young to be dealing with that. And as soon as she got sick, I was like, hey, I've been whole food plant-based for several years now. There's like actually a lot of studies backing that it would help to heal or at least reduce, the progression of the cancer,
right.
and the doctors gave her 1 year to live.
Ooh,
And so when she went whole food plant-based, yeah, it was a tough day that day. I remember driving, I didn't even have money for a car. We were in a bus, and we're in the bus and we're just coming back from the doctor's appointment, just having that news of you have 1 year to live.
yeah.
And I just remember looking around, I was like, no one knows. No one could ever know what someone is going through. Like that really hit me hard in that bus ride back to our house. But anyways, she transitioned to whole food plant-based eating. She, started exercising a little bit more, and she ended up living, 4.5 years. So a lot longer
Wow.
than what the doctor had given her. And I believe that it was because of some of those lifestyle changes and nutritional changes that she's made. And unfortunately, when she passed away, I was still around. I was 27 years old at the time.
Yeah.
We were engaged, about to get married, and I remember just being on the hospital bed with her, and she was like, "Hey, like I want you to continue helping people not end up in my position." Um, and she basically told me what she wanted to happen, and I'm still working towards that because
uh,
it was a big ask.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of how Fit Vegan started, was with that intention of how can I help people reduce their risk of cancer, of all chronic illnesses?
hmm
Well, if I can
Yeah.
get them to eat, whole food plant based, have a healthy body weight and exercise, we all know that we're greatly reducing the risk of all those chronic illnesses.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a little bit older, I believe. I'm 54 years young. Okay. My name's
Yeah.
Mike Young, so I kind of phrase it like that. But I'm used to seeing people older. I mean, I've watched people die, unfortunately, friends, but they're generally in their 50s. Are folks getting these illnesses at earlier ages nowadays?
Yeah, absolutely. So my late partner, she was older than I was. So she was 39 when she passed away, and I was 27. We had about like 12-year difference.
Right.
Which is still young. And when
Yes.
we went to cancer centers, it was a mix. There wasn't that many young people. For the most part, everyone was like in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. She was the only one in her 30s, or maybe some of them that were in their 40s. But at one point, I did an event where I cycled from Vancouver, Canada to San Francisco to raise money for cancer patients, and I slept in a tent every night and hauled all my food with me. It was painful, but I was raising money for 5 cancer patients, and all of them were, like, for the majority, under 30 years old. One
Mm,
of them was 17 and had
mm,
breast cancer,
mhm.
and it's astonishing to me, like, I don't understand how you can have had a chance to create that much damage to your body at such a young age. Obviously, some of it is
Yeah.
genetic, but, yeah, I feel like more and more it's happening at a younger age, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing statistics that say that this generation of folks that are in the prime of their adulthood now or younger are going to be living shorter lives. That's what's predicted anyway. And I think a lot of it is because of what you're saying. I mean, things are just showing up at earlier ages. It's not good. We're not in a good space. So there's a great need for the work that you're doing. I can definitely attest to that because, like, for our organization, our aPlantBasedDiet.org nonprofit, we kind of create events. So we kind of try to create events, or they're here and there, where people can go out of their house and experience something without hopefully hurting their health, which is a big ask these days. I'm
Yeah.
guessing with your with not patients, but just with your clients, they're more staying in. I'm guessing, right? Because there isn't really anywhere you can go, unfortunately. And I would like to get your comments on that. The other thing I'd like to get your comments on is how do you define whole food plant based? Because as you can see from behind me over here, actually that's over here, healthy vegan
Yeah.
food. We've defined that because we couldn't find a definition of whole food plant based. So what do you think about all these things?
Yeah, so to me, I would include like soy, so tofu and tempeh, and like natto amongst fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and grains and all of that. To me, don't really touch seitan in any of our recipes, and obviously, we don't touch the fake meat or any of the other processed foods.
Right, right, okay. Yeah, because like, whole food plant-based, I think, was a term that was coined by Dr. T. Colin Campbell, who we have,
Yeah,
much respect for. I've actually done a couple interviews with him. I've worked with, him and Nelson on different projects, and, yeah, he came up with that word, but there's no definition for it. That's kinda what we realized. So, like, we came up with our own, and, obviously, I know that your business model, I believe you're kind of custom tailoring everything to the individual client. So that definition may not matter so much depending upon what the client's needs are, right?
yeah, absolutely. That's why I do the initial blood work when they come in, because a big part of my whole journey with cancer is we didn't have a lot of funds when we started that whole journey. I didn't know how expensive it was going to be,
Yeah.
and so we heard that treatments were good or therapies were good, and then we spend some of our few resources on doing those treatments. And ultimately, at one point, we discovered that there was a test that she could take. We took the test, and it ended up that a treatment that we had spent thousands of dollars on was actually harming her
Ooh,
versus helping her, even though it was good for certain people, but she had like a predisposed genome that made it so that that treatment wasn't good. And I was so upset with myself. I was like, man, like if I would have known that if we would have tested first, we would have known what would be best. That's why we like to do that blood work before members start, do a DEXA scan. So we have an idea of like what's their starting point, if there's any deficiencies, if there's any imbalances in the body, right? Some people use one
yeah.
leg more than the other, one arm more than the other. So we
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
be able to identify that.
Well, I that is so key, I'd say, because something that I've recognized is that life is all about balance. So once you get out of that balance point, the idea is to bring you back, and you've got to do exactly what you were saying. You've got to figure out where the imbalance is, because otherwise you're maybe knocking something out of balance that was already in, like with this treatment that you did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's key. And I'm so glad you're doing that. Are cancer patients something that that you specialize in, or do you deal with a wide variety of issues, medical issues?
Yeah, so for the most part, we work with people that want to improve their body composition or they're looking to regain their health back. So if someone is currently going through cancer, it would be a little bit too extensive to come into our program and kind of do all the movements. Again, been a caregiver for 4.5 years to someone going through cancer, and it's very limited as to what we can do. And it wouldn't
Yeah.
be a good investment of your funds to do that with us while you're going through cancer. Like I would much rather you buy all the organic food that you can and kind of invest your resources in that front. But we've had a lot of people that have, beat cancer and have come to us and be like, I want to rebuild my health. I want to rebuild my body, where their health is in a position where they can take a little bit more of that stress of exercise.
Okay, that makes sense to me because it sounds like what you're focusing on is just your daily habits, right? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, if you're in a severely compromised medical condition, like you said, may not be that much benefit, but the average person, that's the Achilles heel almost is their daily habits. So if you could work on those and you can get those perfected, or at least as close to perfect as possible, whatever that is, then they're going to be so much better off going forward, I would think.
Yeah, the way I like to illustrate it is if you have like a line that you're heading down currently with your path in terms of like habit, the environment that you live in, the standard that you have for yourself, when you come to work with us, all we want is to kind of shift that trajectory that you're on.
Yeah.
So if we can shift it, 4 degrees and it brings you to a completely different outcome by the time you're 70, 80, or 90 or 100 years old, then we did our job. Because if you look at someone's life timeline, we're only a very small segment of that, but I hope that that small segment is enough to change, the end point for people.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I mean, I think everything counts is kind of like that. I mean, it
Yeah,
really does. I mean, every little thing it just builds up and compounds on itself over time. And like for someone like me, I expect to live to at least 100. Okay, I wrote a book called Live to 150, so I'm very optimistic. But you have to do just about everything in the right way in order to reach that type of an outcome. Now,
yeah,
someone else may say, "Oh, just 100 is good enough," and then that's fine. You can really slack off on a couple of the things, you know. But like you said, everything's going to matter, and the work that you're doing is key in terms of what we call health span, right? Health span and longevity is kind of
yeah.
what we focus on because it's that part of your life when you're really in good health, you're really enjoying life. We want to make that as really as much of your life as possible, if not almost all of it, I would think.
Yeah, and just to feel good in those later years, like the majority of people we work with are, I would say, between like 50 and 80 years old. That's like
Yeah, that's
our
me.
average, yeah, our average client. And it's unfortunate, but a lot of them come to us because they had a health scare or they have someone close to them that passed away or their parents got sick and they have to take care of them and they saw what's coming for them down the road if they don't change their habits.
Yeah.
And so, they're coming at a time of, I say desperation, but just they're on high alert basically because maybe
Yes.
some of them have waited a little bit too long to start taking this on.
Yeah, well, that's all right because to me, when people respond to those situations, that's they've got a lot of motivation, so they're going to
Yeah.
follow through, you know. And so I look at almost, most non-communicable diseases. At least if you notice them early, it's a great motivator. You don't want to notice them too late because, like you said, I mean I've seen that myself. It's just too late. You can't do anything. So this also provides motivation to get this knowledge out to say, hey, just catch it early, don't fall into the bad patterns, and then hopefully you can live, the best life possible. Because I can attest to kind of what you were saying. I'm over 50. Almost everybody is chronically ill at this point, and I think a lot of it is
Yeah.
because systems like you have put together didn't exist in the past, right? And then your system too, with the vegan fit is 100% online. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, and it's fit vegan coaching.
Oh,
Vegan,
50.
vegan.
Okay.
Yeah, I think vegan fit. I think someone else has that. Yeah, fit
Okay.
vegan coaching. Yeah, everything we do is 100% online for the reason that it allows us to have a much wider impact that I would have the ability to have if I was in person. Right? We're blessed to be in 20 different countries currently with some of our members. And I wouldn't be able to do that if we were just in person. But we do workshops in person. We'll attend events, we'll sponsor events, and a lot of our clients will fly in to kind of meet up and have dinner, do a workout together. So we're trying to embed more of that in-person community because
Yeah.
yeah, for a lot of vegans, sometimes they're like the only one in their community and they don't have anyone else to connect with. So going to those workshops and to those events is really, I think it's very powerful for people and a confirmation of like, hey, there's other people like me out there.
Now, how about payment and insurance? Does insurance cover something like this?
No, we're looking into it. We've been told that it's a a bit of a mess to kind of deal with insurance on some of these things. And
Hmm.
so currently, no, insurance doesn't cover what we do. It is out of pocket.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Because I can see down into the future, and I can't wait to a time when this is the first step, right, towards optimizing your health. When you go see a doctor, it's not something else. It's like, oh, have you addressed all the lifestyle and food issues first? Right. Let's deal with all
Yeah.
that. Then we'll move on to something else if that doesn't work. But and you and I know it almost always works with a few rare
Yeah.
exceptions. So
That's why like we work with a lot of physicians after they're done their transformations. A lot of the time, if they have a patient that needs to start exercising and eat healthier, they'll just refer them to us. So
okay.
they'll take care of the medical side and are like, hey, I want you to do these things because it'd be very powerful for from a lifestyle change standpoint. And I'm like, I have this guy. Then I can help you hold you accountable and get the outcome that you want.
That's right. Okay. Something else I wanted to kind of move back a little bit too. You mentioned vegans. Obviously, vegan is in your name. Let me make sure I got it. Fit vegan coaching, right? That's it. Fit vegan
Yeah.
coaching. Okay. So we, our nonprofit at aPlantBasedDiet.org has been involved for about 10 years now. We started out doing Veg Fest and we don't do them anymore. One of the reasons why is because we recognize that even though we developed this healthy vegan food, actually it's over here, healthy vegan food standard, we encouraged and incentivized food vendors to bring it. Almost nobody brought any. So we were
Mhm.
giving people food that was hurting them, even though it was vegan and plant-based, right? Because like you said, whole food plant-based, well, we call it healthy vegan food. Um, that makes a big difference. And I know what. Tell me about the struggles, because obviously you're in this place, this space, because folks do struggle with the all the negative peer pressure they get in the real world. They can meet you in the virtual world, at least guaranteed, right? You're there, and you help them with that. We found that we had to exit those festivals because we couldn't provide enough influence. We had to kind of create our own new events that just were healthy vegan food and better. And obviously, that's what you're
Yeah.
doing. You're working with one-on-one with these folks, and you are helping them. So, what kind of challenges do you see? Because I'm just telling you about the ones that we saw and we had to exit that. What about what you see with your clients?
Yeah. So frankly, we just started doing in-person events this year.
Mm,
For the first, because we've been at it for 4.5 years now. For the first, 3.5 years, we've fully just been online. Well, because I was a caregiver and I was
yeah.
grieving and traveling and kind of
Yes.
going through my own process. But this year, we've only done events that we really align with. So we went to, NHA because it's whole food plant based.
Yes.
We just came back from PCRM in Washington a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
We're going to be attending, we're potentially going to be attending Plant Nutrition Project this year as well, as potentially as a sponsor. Last year was just me attending to kind of see what it was like. So
Yep.
we're trying to go to this event where the food is cleaner, where we're going to promote it. I've been to a few Veg Fest and yeah, it's deep fried, it's oily, you
Yeah.
feel lethargic once you leave those events. And um, it just, yeah, not my jam. If I was to put on my own event, it would be, yeah, whole food plant based. I'd probably have some ice baths, some weights. It would be
There you go.
a very different event than a lot of the Veg Fest.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, because we're always been about health, and also we also notice, and just the fact that your business exists is kind of a testament to the rising of the consciousness level of general
Yeah.
society. Okay, we see that. That's why we felt like, okay, we can part ways from those festivals now and kind of move on to something a little more challenging, a little higher level of consciousness, because we see that there's more and more people that are moving into these higher consciousness level space, and of course there's also an acknowledgement that we see within the medical community. And we'll say that the lifestyle medicine is an example of that, where the
Yeah.
medical professionals are also recognizing there is a whole other level up here that we need to strive for. And I think that, what the work that you're doing is a part of that. I hope that the work that we're doing is a part of that as well. And I'm like I said, I'm very optimistic about the future, and I'm very thankful for the fact that you exist doing the work that you're doing.
Well, same here on your side. And, we definitely see it. We definitely see an increased interest in people eating whole food plant based. We definitely see an interest in a lot of physicians transitioning to eating more plant based because they'll come to us to, transition while helping them lose weight and kind of get in shape. or
Mm.
some people are already, vegan or plant-based, but are a little bit more on the junk food because of the high stress lifestyle of being a physician. And so we kind of help them kind of clean it up. And so, yeah, there's definitely an awakening amongst the world of health professionals that are looking to kind of transition to a cleaner way of eating versus a lot of those fake processed foods.
Yeah, that's it. Awakening or enlightening. That's what we see. I like a lot the doctors that are like, let's say, board certified in lifestyle medicine. I call them enlightened physicians. That's what I tell people.
Yeah.
Well, what's the difference? Well, they're just enlightened. They just have this knowledge. I mean, I'm like, don't try to. I tell people as a shortcut in a way. Don't try to go to your existing doctor who probably, or you already know, doesn't know any of these things about food as medicine, things like that. You got to find somebody who's already board certified, ideally lifestyle medicine, or obviously some could be a new client for you. I mean, I'm just excited that these things actually exist, because I feel like when we started 2014, 10 years ago, this was unheard of. This kind of stuff was totally
Yeah.
unheard of, you know?
That's when I went vegan. It's gonna be a decade in October.
All right.
And yeah, there wasn't a lot of resources out there. Forks Over Knife had just come out, I think, not too long. And I was pretty much like the first thing that was like, oh, you can eat this way. This is a whole new world. So yeah, it's great that you started back then because there definitely wasn't a lot of resources.
Yeah, and in a way, I guess we're kind of just surfing the wave. That's how I would say that, even though I'm not a good surfer, in the surfing of the plant-based world, I'm better. Okay.
Yeah.
And we're surfing that wave because the Veg Fest were a way to get in front of a lot of people. And now we've moved on to other things because that wave just keeps going. And we have enough people to make it worthwhile. And actually, one of the things you brought up was the documentaries. I wanted to ask you a question. We also noticed that, yes, there are a lot of vegan documentaries out there. Okay. You mentioned Forks Over Knives. That was a great one. Another one I'd say is Plant Pure Nation, which actually you can see on
Yeah.
our website because we have a relationship with them. They've allowed us to put that on our website. But we've also noticed that even since Plant Pure Nation, there hasn't been a thorough documentary that's really dove deep into, I'd say, health optimization, right? I mean, there's a lot of plant-based
Yeah.
documentaries, but that area is in need of another one, maybe a newer one. Almost, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, for sure. Because I'm thinking like the twin study was they used some fake meat in the meal
Yes,
plans, game changers as well. There were some elements of it to it. I don't know if you've seen Christspiracy. That was another good one, but it didn't
I
touch
haven't
too
seen it
much
yet.
on nutrition.
Okay.
That's an interesting one to watch.
Yeah.
That Jesus was the OG activist. It was a
Yeah.
they did a good job kind of for the documentary. But no, you're right. There hasn't been a health oriented one in a long time. And I feel like because I know Cam from Christspiracy and Kip from with the health. I had a chance to chat with them.
Yes.
It's something to kind of attract the masses. So it's kind of like opening a really broad door for people to come into this world
Yes.
in order for the seed to be planted. And then as they do research, then the seed is being watered. And I feel like eventually the hope, at least my hope, is that as they do their research, common sense kicks in. And I was like, I shouldn't be eating vegan processed food all the time. I should be eating unprocessed vegan food all the time. And
Yeah.
hopefully they go down that path to have more education. But
Mhm.
you're right, there should be we're definitely in need of a new one for the whole food plant-based movement.
Yeah, in a way, maybe the new one is the Dean Ornish study that was just released, about Alzheimer's, showing how that can be reversed basically in a very short period of time by eating the right types of plants. That
Yeah.
that was so good to see that, that maybe that's where we are now. Maybe, like you said, the documentaries raise the awareness, and now we've just got to get doctor after doctor who's already in the medical industry saying this is the way to go, this is the way to go for all these reasons. And of course, then you have so many more clients for your business too, because it's a struggle. Like, I realize, I mean, that's, even if someone tells you all this stuff to do, when you walk outside and 95% of your choices are going to hurt you, you need somebody with a tremendous amount of willpower to be able to navigate through that.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely your body will look and feel and be a result of your external environment. And so if you keep certain food in the house, if you have a tendency to hang out around certain area or work in an area where there's, terrible food or that is available for you, if you don't go to the gym or don't exercise at the house. If you don't have that external environment, your body, your health, your mental health will be a reflection of whatever environment you either consciously create for yourself or allow the world to create for you. And so I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of people don't consciously choose their environment. They're
Right.
just like, this is what's popular, this is what's easy, this is what's convenient. And then, the marketing in the world and convenience is what's shaping and molding how they're living, how they're eating, how they're handling stress, how they're moving or not moving. And then, yeah, people wonder why they don't feel great.
Yes, there's no question about that. Let me also touch on the fact that would you consider yourself an athlete?
Oh, absolutely. I've done several half Ironman, over, 25 triathlons. I bodybuilding, powerlifting, basketball. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay, okay, just making sure because I did see all that in your background. But sometimes people give it all up. But do you think that this is something that needs to be integrated into your lifestyle? That the movement, right? The strength training, the aerobic exercise. What do you think about all that?
Well, absolutely. And especially as you get older, right? As we get older, we both know like sarcopenia will kick in, osteoporosis will kick in. So bone density will go down, lean muscle mass will go down. So doing some form of resistance training and cardiovascular exercise. So a lot of people have hatred for cardio, right? Which is what cardiovascular exercise is. But people forget that they can make it fun. So again, personally, I've done so many half Ironmans and triathlons, and I hate running. So that swim, bike, run, I hated the last part of it. So I was fast because I wanted it to be done.
Yeah.
But I just went to play basketball for 90 minutes before this. Had a blast and it was great. I got to have a community, connect with people. I did some cardiovascular exercise, but it was fun. So I tell people, pick something that you enjoy doing. I remember we had a client at one point, she had a trampoline and she loved it. So she jumped on her trampoline for 45 minutes while she watched Netflix. I was like, great. Hey, you're sweating, your heart rate is up. That's what matters because you can have what appears to be a fit body, but if your heart isn't strong and it stops working, you still die,
Mm,
right? You can have a great six pack, but if your heart gives up, you still die. Your six pack's not going to save you. So you need to work your heart, and that comes through cardiovascular exercise. And that comes through moving your body just in a higher capacity than necessarily just walking. And pick something fun. It could be
mhm.
tennis, it could be pickleball, it could be running, cycling, hiking, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Okay. Because I'm standing up. By the way, I'm always up. Okay. So I totally agree with
I
you. But
can't
it's
do that because I'm 6'4" and all my camera gear doesn't work the way that I set it up.
okay. Yeah. You're a little bit taller than me. That's for sure. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think you used to play basketball too, so that makes sense, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. One question I want to ask about sarcopenia. Now, this is something like I'm over 50. It's something I got to watch out for. So the goal I feel like it's just to maintain, right? Because if you're
Mhm.
not maintaining, you're going to be losing starting at this age of 50, right?
Yeah, maintaining or building,
Okay. Okay.
right? There would be nothing wrong with building because I think people maintenance is a great goal, but putting on would be an additional great goal because you never know what's going to happen in your life. So I've had clients where their parents got sick and they had 24/7 had to become the caregiver for their parents and they literally couldn't do anything for 2 months straight. Well, then there would be a decrease in lean muscle mass. Well, if we had a little bit more and we lost, we're at least better off than if we would have just maintained, right? We maybe
I
would
hear
have
you.
gone back to where we were when we started. So
Yep. I
yeah,
hear you.
putting an emphasis on building. I'm not saying to look like Arnold because none of us will.
Right.
But yeah, putting an emphasis on building.
Yeah, because we see that from a health span and longevity standpoint. I mean, we're not looking to win a bodybuilding competition, but you
Yeah.
got to have that base strength. You got to have it. And like you said, that's a great point. You're going to have a setback from time to time. You're not going to know when it's going to happen, so you got to
Yeah.
build that into your routine. I'd say.
And I'll just throw that in. I just recorded we do fit vegan success story episodes with our clients on our show.
Mhm.
And one of our clients, she's 63, she's a caregiver to her son. Been a caregiver to her son for the past 20 years. And yeah, some crazy story of what happened to her son and how she had to care for him. But yeah, if he falls, she's a small woman. She needs to be able to hold them and pick him up. And so strength is not only to combat sarcopenia, but also like, hey, you're caring for your mom, for your dad, for someone that you love, and they fall, or you have to help them pick up. You need to have the strength to do that. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it comes in very handy when you get put in that position.
Yeah, and that brings up another good point, which is I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you have that strength, you have generally along with it more coordination and balance. So all of that together may prevent you from falling down in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely reduces the risk of injury for sure. It definitely increases your ability to move in different planes of movement without getting hurt because you're gonna have that stability. And also it's gonna help you protect your joints, right? So if your quads are strong and your hamstrings are strong, like your knees gonna be protected a lot more than if you had weak quads and weak hamstrings.
Yes, yes. So all that, yeah, man, you're the person to explain all this, having just from the little you've told me here about the things you've done with triathlons and stuff. Because I can tell you, I did a sprint triathlon at one point. I think I did one,
Nice.
and that was difficult. And that was I think I was over 40 at that time. It's kind of like I feel like there's always people. Maybe it's just I'm Generation X, and it seems like Generation X has that traditional midlife crisis at 40. And but more recently, the midlife crisis has been get into running, get into triathlons, get into something like that. Like it used to be like, oh, I'm going to buy some really expensive car and that's it. I'm chilling out. But
No, yeah, now you buy an expensive bike.
yeah, yeah, those are expensive. I was looking at some of those.
You could buy a car for the same price.
Yeah, yeah, but that was fun. I mean, I did a lot of running. I actually the longest run I ever did during that time, which was about 10 years ago, was almost 40 miles. I did
Oh, wow.
38 miles in one run. I was actually training for a 100-mile run, but what I found was it took so much time to train. I just after a
Yeah.
while, I just didn't have those blocks of time anymore. So that kind of yeah, and then I actually this was before I was this was like 2012, I think, before I actually became fully plant-based. I did get sick one time when I was training for this, and that was a huge setback, as you can probably imagine, right? If you're training for a 100-mile run and you get sick for a week, it's almost
Yeah.
you can't recover from that. You got to sign up for another race at that point.
Yeah, I don't compete anymore, simply for the reason that I had to make it it's 20 to 25 hours a week of training plus recovery, plus food, plus, more sleep. And I just had to make a decision. Do I want to spend my energy on doing more races or focus on impact with our business?
Yeah,
And I was like, you know what? I care more about the impact. I've done the races. It served me when I did them.
yeah,
To be frank, the only reason I've done all of those races is while I was a caregiver to my late partner.
yeah,
I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs.
yeah,
Ironman was my drug. That was my way
yeah.
of numbing myself and just putting my head down and biking for 4 hours. So that it was useful when I did it.
Yes, I think mine was similar. I was actually going through a divorce, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's just yeah, it's something, and that actually is a testament. Also, I say to the abilities of aerobic exercise to optimize your mental health. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And we hear it so often, like, "I need to go for a run for my mental health." Like, "I need to go do a workout for my mental health." And it's true, you always feel good after a training session.
Yeah, because and usually I think my explanation is you're focusing so hard on just accomplishing that physical goal that you can't think about anything else, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're so focused on that, and you have to put all your energy to that. It's like you're giving yourself a break from the stress.
Yeah, and all the hormones and endorphins that are kicking in from exercising. Yeah, it's definitely, and especially if you do something like running or cycling or swimming, it's so repetitive that your brain will just go on autopilot, and then you don't have to think. And that's why I liked it when I bike. You're on your bike trainer, you put your head down, and it's just you're rotating your legs for 4 hours, right?
Yeah, yes. And so I also respect your decision there about focusing more on your current endeavor because I do think, as I mentioned earlier, the timing is right.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a time for what you did, and now there's a time for what you're doing right now. And I do think that this is the time because that's what we're doing as an organization. We are kind of doubling down on this health span longevity. I mean, if you want to know just so you know my vision, okay, as an optimist, I would say that most people's illnesses, the way they're described, I see them online. I look at different charts. Almost all of the illnesses are what they call non-communicable diseases. So you didn't catch them from somebody else. You kind of right develop them through your lifestyle. So I can see a
Yeah.
time when people don't get that anymore. And it's just more of it. We're in the transition out of that now. I think. I mean, there are many diseases that are communicable or environmental. I'm not talking about those. I'm not talking about emergency situations, but I'm talking about like anywhere between what 75 to 90+% of all medical problems, according to doctors, they say are these NCDs. So
Yeah.
that's what you're doing. I mean, I am so happy that you're in this space because that we need to move out of this area where most people are suffering from these NCDs to a time when we're looking back, kind of like smoking, right? Well, actually, you're younger than me, I think, but I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Wherever I went, there was smoke in a car, in a building, in a restaurant, in my house. I couldn't get away from it. But now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, people used to live like that. I know it was me. I was in those environments.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it definitely that I had an aunt and an uncle like that, that you walked into their house and it was clouded in there, and it was you breathing heavy. Now I wanna mention my mission as well, because
Yes.
it's the thing that guides everything that we do. And so, which is to help 10,000 people get lean, thrive, and disease-proof their body on plants by 2033.
Nice.
So by 2033, I will be the age that my late partner was when she passed away. So in her honor, I want to be able to impact the lives of 10,000 people.
Wonderful.
And those are measured through the people that we've coached through the program. That's not indirect impact, that's direct impact. And
Hmm.
in a million by 2050.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
one thing I got to say, I've never not reached my goal my entire life. The only one that I haven't reached is that I wasn't able to save my late partner. That's
Wow.
the only one I wasn't able. Every other goal that I've set for myself, I've reached. Some of them have taken me 10 times longer than what I want it to be. So, for example, this photo up here with Tony Robbins, we had
Mhm.
a private trip in
See.
Hawaii last October. I set that goal for myself. I told it would take 2 years to reach that goal to meet him. It took me 15 years, but I still did it.
All right.
Yeah. So if I set my sight on something, it's going to happen. It might take longer, but it's going to happen.
That's right, and that's one thing about sports too, I'd say, is it really, uh, it's almost like a mirror of life and goal setting and attaining those goals, and you have a lot of practice at doing that, and you're putting it into, uh, other uses that are even more important now, so I think that's excellent.
Yeah, that's why I love sport. You can't fail if you don't quit, right? You've run races. You
Yes.
can't fail the race if you don't stop, right? Even if you walk it, you'll cross the finish line at one
Uh-huh.
point. So it's undeniable that you will succeed if you don't quit.
That's right. All right. Well, I'm sure you are not going to quit, and maybe going forward in the future, we can help you to attain that goal. Because that's what we're all about. Everything you just mentioned in terms of what you want to do, we would love to see that in general society as well. So, thank you for all the work that you're doing. And before we go, please let folks know, how they can get in touch with you and find out more about the services that you offer.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm happy we got connected on the podcast with Brian. Yeah, if you head over to fitvegancoaching.com, you'll find everything in terms of our coaching. But if you just search Fit Vegan on YouTube or on any podcast platform, we do have a Fit Vegan podcast show, which I love to have you on as a guest.
Yeah.
So yeah, we put out episodes twice a week. And just one last thing, everyone that we work with, we always end up donating a portion of our proceeds to cancer patients every single month. And so we donate to cancer patients directly to help them pay for mortgage, food, treatment. I don't go through organizations because I did at one point, and then I learned that they basically got nothing. And so I just give directly, even though I can't write it off, I don't care. I'm giving directly to the families. And so just know that you're also supporting these guys in the back end.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. And I look forward to talking again soon, maybe on your podcast.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.